breaking down manual handling operations according to several elements and criteria that influence work activity in order to produce high-quality risk assessments. These factors include task, load, working environment, and human capabilities. The task is subdivided into two major lines: task layout and work routine. Task layout can play a significant role in reducing the risk of injury by eliminating carrying between workstations, storing heavier loads at waist height and light loads, easily handled or handled infrequently above shoulder height. So while designing the workflow layout, take into account the reduction or removal of the need for twisting, stooping, and stretching. Distance from the trunk task. The farther the load is moved away from the body, the higher the stress on the lower back. Also, holding a load at arm's length imposes about 5 times the stresses when loading very close to the body. It is less risky and easier to lift the load by pulling or sliding closer to the body before beginning the lift, conserving foot position close to the load as much as possible to avoid overreaching, and the handler is less likely to lose control of it. Twisting and side bending task. In the same boat of distance from trunk, stress on the lower back increases significantly by twisting during manual handling and becomes worse if twisting and bending at the same time. Twisting occurs more likely while one-handed handling. The risk can be avoided by directly approaching the load in the direction they intend to move. If not possible, then change direction by moving the body with the feet rather than twisting the torso as part of the lift. Stooping task. Stooping puts additional strain on the lower back, which raises the risk of injury. Back muscles' function is to support both the weight of the load and the weight of the upper body. A shallow stoop, on the other hand, is preferable to a steep stoop because the latter might put undue strain on the knees and hips. Reaching upwards task. Reaching over shoulder level puts additional strain on the arms and back, making it harder to control the load. Hand postures above the shoulder tend to be weak and so exhausting despite the use of leg muscles to push upward or body weight to pull downward. So whenever possible, avoid lifting above the height of your head, and instead, offer help to support loads or tools. Lifting or lowering distance task. It is the distance that must be traveled to lift or lower a load, so a longer distance requires more physical effort than a shorter one. As long as the load is modest enough to be held close to the body, avoid raising below floor level and encourage handling methods which enable the use of leg muscles rather than the back. Carrying distance task. Even though safe loading practices lower the risk of injury, you still need to avoid endangering the back. As clarified, that more distance means more effort required, which in turn means fatigue and an increased risk of injury. For example, carrying weights for more than 10 meters imposes a load on the heart and lungs, muscle fatigue, and limits the strength needed for lifting and lowering. Pushing or pulling task. Loading goods onto a conveyor, trolley, or roll cage will reduce the amount of carrying needed. That's why it is considered a way of reducing the effort of manual handling. However, that doesn't mean it is harmless, as with items that don't have wheels and uncontrolled sliding or rolling of heavy loads. The majority of injuries affect the back, neck, and shoulders. Injuries from trapping hands and other body parts are also common. Positioning the load precisely. When palletizing a load or controlled into a final position, it is important to position the load precisely, which adds to the risk of injury, especially if the load is far from the body. Then, it is safe to use a tool or device to guide the load into its exact position. Risk of sudden movement of the load. Unpredictable stresses can be imposed on the body in case of sudden movement of a load or lost the complete control of it. For example, freeing jammed items in a machine, handling people or animals that may behave unpredictably. Work routine. Frequent or prolonged physical effort. Working with less movement reduces blood flow to the muscles and muscular efficiency, leading rapidly to fatigue and pain. And since comfortable handling decreases as the frequency of handling increases, the body would become more fatigued, worsened by jerky or hurried movements. In this case, training is a good way to adjust working rate to optimize safety and productivity. Rest or recovery periods. As there are large differences in how quickly individuals become fatigued, make sure there are adequate opportunities for rest by taking breaks from work or recovering by changing to another task that uses a different set of muscles. Handling while seated. While handling loads while seated, most of the work is done by arm muscles, so the loads that can be handled are much lighter. Overreaching and leaning forward to grasp loads put the body under additional stress. Twisting is present, especially when reaching below seat height or above shoulder height, so consider providing a seat that swivels. Also, seats should be provided with an appropriate backrest and armrests if they are not restricting movement. Team handling. Although teamwork reduces the risk of injury, it may introduce additional problems if not considered properly. First of all, each member of the team shall know his own roles. Also, planning and coordination are more important, especially when the team size grows. Pay attention to the capability of the weakest person acts as a limiting factor, which in turn means the stronger members of the team should lift the heavier end of the load. Control measures. Avoid frequent stopping and maneuvering. Prevent jerky movements and high sustained forces. Place hands at waist height, neither below nor above shoulder height. Adopt a comfortable, stable posture rather than twisting or bending. Shorten the length of the route as much as possible. Make safe, repeated journeys. Ensure route clearance of obstacles. Good condition of floor surface. Proper PPE to ensure grip to prevent slipping. Avoid curbs, steps or slopes by ramps and lifts. Provide the correct type of equipment. Wheels are fitted with brakes. Maintenance regime, wheels and braking system. Equipment is provided with a handle at a suitable height.